I'm Jess. I'm a fitness instructor and content creator sharing my love of athleisure wear, body-inclusive fitness, and New York City. And this is Jess McKay Live, the podcast where I answer your questions about life, Lululemon, and love. Self-love. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 5. This is episode 5. I feel like I'm going to be surprised every time we do another episode, but we're still here. We're still doing this. And we're doing this because of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I really appreciate it if you tag me, if you are posting anything and you want to let me know that you are listening. You can tag me on social media, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, or write in the comments here on YouTube. I love to hear how you feel about this podcast. We've got Ryan here.
I have the questions for you, and I'm also feeling like episode 5 kind of snuck up on us. I was going through and I just added all of the previous episodes to a playlist on your YouTube channel, so you can go back and listen to all the episodes. But I was surprised that we had already done 4. I guess it was because we weren't sure if we were going to do this weekly.
Yeah, I think we were maybe going to do it monthly or bi-weekly, but I do have a lot of topics to talk about, and today's topic happens to be
Canada versus New York City.
Canada as a country as a whole versus just New York City, because those are equal in size or weight. But really, it's about being a Canadian moving to New York City. What are the reasons for our move? And
differences you've noticed, what your experience has been like, and advice you have for other people that might want to do something like this.
Exactly. I love that.
I have the questions. She doesn't know which questions I've picked, so
I have no idea.
I can say the summary before you can.
Absolutely. But before we get into those questions, I'm going to give my little spiel here. This is not a sponsored podcast, but if you want to support me, you can use the link in the description when you are shopping at Lululemon. I'm a member of the Lululemon Collective, and this means if you use that link, it helps to support me here in the form of a small commission. Thank you so much to everyone who has used that link. I really do see when you are shopping with it, so I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. Firstly, we're going to do some icebreaker questions.
Okay, so these have come from the people that are watching on TikTok Live. Thanks to everyone that watches. Let's start with, how many pets do you have?
I have 2 pets, Adelaide and Phoebe, the Italian greyhounds.
And if you were to get another breed of dog, what would you get?
When we were looking for Italian greyhounds, we actually were looking at a lot of different breeds. I think we might have ended up with a long-haired Dachshund, mini Dachshund. So the small ones.
The other that I was going to say, if we got a big dog, greyhound.
Oh my gosh, we were looking at greyhounds too. Or whippets, the in-between size. But really, I love so many dogs. I grew up with a Jack Russell Terrier, and I loved her. Her name was Chloe. She's amazing. And she passed away in 2015. So my family does not have a family dog at the moment. But when we come home with Adelaide and Phoebe, I know they absolutely love dog sitting or babysitting our fur babies.
What was your first Lululemon piece?
First Lululemon piece, I think I've mentioned this, is the scuba hoodie. And I actually just did a recent vintage Lululemon TikTok featuring some of my very old items. And one of them is the original scuba hoodie that I got in 2006. So definitely check out my TikTok. And I've got that video up from a few days ago.
I knew that you had done that video, so I wanted to give you a chance to shout it out. So what are you loving on TV right now?
Right now to this minute, we're watching Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, and I'm absolutely loving it. We're also currently a sucker for summertime reality television. So we're watching Big Brother. We're also watching The Bachelorette with 2 bachelorettes. And
The Challenge USA?
Oh, The Challenge USA is on as well. There's so many reality competition shows right now. And I enjoy those shows right now, especially since 2020. We've been spending a lot more time at home. And it's a way to connect with the outside world, I find. I know that sounds really strange, but reality TV for me is like an escape. But I really like that it's live. So Big Brother, those people are in that house right now. And just getting up-to-date news through sort of a fictional reality show is just kind of like a guilty pleasure and like comforting.
Would you want feet for hands or hands for feet?
Oh my gosh. So this was a question from the TikTok Live. Thank you. I would like hands for feet. So if my feet were actually hands, I would like that better because my legs are so strong. I'm a bar instructor. I grew up as a dancer, and I feel kind of like more nimble with my feet. And I just wish that I had the dexterity of hands on my feet. Because yeah, my legs are so strong. I feel like I could do so much if I had hands on my feet. And I don't know what feet on hands would be. Like you could flip over and do like a handstand more easily. Like, I don't know. But anyways, that's my answer.
If you could only wear one Lululemon color, what would it be?
So my answer for favorite color is always ripened raspberry. But I'm trying to think. I would be very happy wearing ripened raspberry, to be honest. But if I had to choose something else, I feel like I might choose Blue Nile. It's not too neutral, but it's also not too dark. And I find as well that if I were to choose something lighter, like let's say pastel blue, I would get that dirty if that was the only color I was ever going to wear for the rest of my life. I feel like that color it would get dirty. Whereas I think
same with strawberry milkshake.
Right. I would have said strawberry milkshake. It's so beautiful, but it could get dirty. Whereas Blue Nile, I feel like is just dark enough, but then is still like a bright color. And that's why I like it so much. So let's say Blue Nile.
What is your second favorite athleisure brand?
Second favorite athleisure brand. I don't have too much experience shopping at other locations, to be honest, but as someone who has shopped at Bar 3 as a Bar 3 instructor, I have had the opportunity to try the items that are like collaborative Bar 3 and other brands. So I have tried DYI, which is Define Your Own Inspiration. And I really liked their leggings. We did like Bar 3 did a collab with them, and it was a soft legging, but also compressive. It kind of reminded me of the Wonder Train, but maybe a little bit like in between compression between an Align pant and the Wonder Train. So that was Define Your Own Inspiration, as well as Beyond Yoga. Now, Beyond Yoga had really soft leggings, but I will say that they were kind of like Align pants in the sense that you have to be really careful with them, and the fabric's really delicate. But Beyond Yoga was another brand, so super soft, like nice compression, but so buttery soft, like just like Align pants. So if you are interested in trying them out, I do believe, I'm going to have to fact check on this, but one of those two brands, if not both, I thought manufactured in the US. So that was like a really cool bonus and something to consider. So I'm going to have to do my research on that. But that was something cool that I thought was a great bonus about those. I still, of course, love Lululemon, but if you're looking for alternatives and you want to try it, maybe those.
So I just looked up DYI
Yes.
and Beyond Yoga. Both are made in the USA.
Both are made in the USA. Okay, so that is a huge bonus. That's really cool. And not to say that Lululemon isn't my favorite. It absolutely is. But in the past, I've tried Beyond Yoga and Define Your Own Inspiration. They're very similar price points. So if you're looking for me to suggest something that's a dupe that costs a quarter of the price, these are not them. They are definitely like a luxury yoga wear company or athleisure wear company. But yeah, something to try if you're looking for high quality leggings.
Okay, we've got two more icebreaker questions that kind of lead into our topic. So what is your favorite NYC Lululemon location?
I love going to the Fifth Avenue location. They do the heat press there, and it's got so many floors. It's the biggest location of Lululemon and ever. And the staff are great. I mean, the staff are great everywhere. I've honestly not had a bad experience in New York City. Everyone has been very kind and really helpful.
And what have you noticed with the difference with the weather, Canada versus New York City?
Oh, that's not one of the like main questions.
No,
That's
I just
an
thought that would be
icebreaker.
kind of a fun icebreaker question.
Oh, sure. I would say that the weather in New York City is very similar to Canada. And when I say Canada, I mean my experience in the Toronto, Ontario area. But yeah, the weather has been very similar. it gets hotter faster. So in the springtime, if we were still in Canada, our families were still getting snow, whereas here in New York, we didn't have snow for like maybe a few weeks, a month. So the weather just kind of, it warms up quicker here, gets really hot in the summer, and I think it's going to take longer for New York to cool down than it does in Canada. In Canada, it's going to get colder faster.
Okay, so before we get into the main topic, you wanted to do a Lululemon spotlight.
Lululemon spotlight. Okay, so this week's Lululemon spotlight, this is where I choose an item to spotlight from Lululemon that I'm loving, I'm obsessed with, or something I've had a long history with. Today we got a suggestion. People want to know about shorts. So there are two categories of shorts, in my opinion, from Lululemon. It's the sort of looser fitting athletic style shorts, like the Hottie Hots or Speed Ups, and the biker shorts, which are sort of basically a short version of the leggings. Now, something to consider.
There's then also lounge shorts.
Casual shorts. That's a third parter. I feel like that could get its whole own spotlight. But I will say that for the biker shorts, we'll start with them. A lot of people will ask me for my biker short recommendation. And Align shorts get tossed into the mix. Align shorts, technically, while in style, they look like a biker short. I hate to use the term bike because Align shorts are not meant to be worn for something like a spin class or cycling. You really only want to wear them for yoga. Maybe if you work from home and you're wearing them around the house, something that you are not going to have high friction. You can wear them for Pilates, for bar, yoga, but not really to go running or anything like that. They're also not very compressive, so they will fall down if you're trying to run in them or do like an intense HIIT workout. So biker short number one, Align short. I love them. They're super comfortable, but they're definitely not for biking. If you are wanting to do intense fitness in biker shorts, I would recommend the Wonder Train short. I'm currently wearing them as we speak. They've recently had a new update that the leg opening at the bottom is wider. So that was a complaint that a lot of people had about the previous Wonder Train short, is that they would kind of come in, people would say like sausage legs, that it would cut into your thigh and, you know, encase your thigh. And that is not what we want. So this new updated leg opening, I think, is super comfortable. I'm really enjoying them. And it's basically the Wonder Train legging, but a short. On top of that, there's also the Invigorate short. I feel like there's not that many of them on the website, and they have not come out with new Invigorate shorts in a really long time. So I'm going to recommend that. However, you may not be able to find it very well. Something else about the Wonder Train and Invigorate, unlike the Align shorts, they will never be double-lined. The Align shorts are sometimes double-lined when you get them in lighter colors. So something like raspberry cream, creamy mint, those are lighter colors. Even Sonic Pink has been double-lined recently. And this is something that I know a lot of people complain about for the Align short. So just keep in mind that the Wonder Train or Invigorate will never be double-lined. And that's like a huge bonus because I find the double-lined Aligns are hot to wear. It does get a little warmer quicker. Like New York City. Gets warmer quicker. Anyways, the other shorts that I just wanted to talk about are the Base Pace shorts and the Fast and Free shorts. So I just ordered and tried on yesterday for the first time the Base Pace shorts made with Nulux fabric. I really love the waistband on those. I think it's super comfortable. It's not too compressive. The Nulux fabric is super slick. It's good for running. And at the bottom of the leg, it's got like a little grip on the other side, kind of like the Court Rival skirts liner. And it's a little like rubbery part that keeps it from riding up. So if you're a runner, the Base Pace short, I think, is a really great option. I have not tried the Fast and Free short, but they're currently out of stock right now, so I was not able to order those. But the Fast and Free short, very similar, Nulux fabric, they just have pockets as well. So if you're looking for biker shorts, if you're a runner or doing something super intense, I'd say Base Pace short, Fast and Free short, Wonder Train short. Invigorate short, don't get the Align short. But if you're doing yoga and low impact, Align shorts are so comfortable. Talking about the looser shorts at Lululemon, I'm not a fan of the Hottie Hots, Speed Ups, or even the Track That shorts, but I know so many people are. So for me and my body type, they just don't fit properly. And I'm going to say that across the board. The one that I liked the best maybe was the Track That short, but it still just didn't fit right. It's either too big or too small, depending on which size I grab. There's also the Find Your Pace shorts. For me, those ones are a little too cheeky. They ride up nice and high. And because it's loose, just with my body type as well, it's just a little bit too much for me. But doesn't mean it's not going to fit for you or work for you and your style. I think we can talk about the casual shorts another time, just because that's a huge, huge endeavor. And I do want to get to the topic today. But that's kind of a basic overview and spotlight of all the different shorts for workouts. And if you were to ask me offhand, what's my favorite? Probably going to say the Wonder Train right now, because that's the one that's most available in all the colors and has the new updated leg opening. One last category I forgot to talk about is the new hiking collection. Thank you so much to TikTok Live for reminding me that this is new. I have not tried on the new shorts. However, there are new items available. Very exciting. There's the Hike to Swim shorts. And I think that's a really interesting option because of it saying hike to swim. The swim portion of it is that the fabric is resistant to swimming, whether it's chlorine or you're swimming outdoors. Those shorts are made with Esca fabric, which is chlorine and salt resistant. So very exciting. And they've got a matching bra. I think it would be a really great outfit if you're someone who does more athletic stuff outdoors and you like swimming. I think this is a very versatile option.
Great. So you know what to get when you start training for a triathlon.
I'm not going to be doing that.
Okay.
but if you are, that's amazing. Please do. Then there's also the Cargo Super High-Rise shorts, and the color I'm seeing here on the site is so beautiful. I actually just got the high neck energy bra long line in that color, and I'm obsessed with it. But the features of these cargo shorts, they have lots of pockets as well as this sort of clip that you could put a carabiner on, and I think that they really are practical, technical shorts if you are doing outdoor activities like hiking. I think it maybe is too many features of a product for me to have just as a casual short. However, they are so beautiful. They've got a nice draw cord so they're not going to fall down, and definitely something to experiment if you do anything outdoors. So that short is a tight fit. You can see that it is close to the body. However, there is another cargo short for women. It's called the multi-pocket cargo high-rise short. And this one is more of a looser fit. And while it looks a little bit more casual, because it's in the hiking collection, it definitely has more technicality and function for hiking in particular. So you can see like the extra pockets and wide opening pocket is really cool. And the fit looks really great. So I would definitely try this for fun. It has a water repellent fabric and the Luxtreme waistband. So Luxtreme is that cool, slick fabric that you use for working out. And while I wish there were more items made with Luxtreme these days, I feel like mostly we've moved towards Everlux, but Everlux is in the Wonder Train and the Wonder Train shorts, Invigorate, all those things. But, you know, a waistband with Luxtreme, I think that's great.
All right, let's get into questions about what it's like living in New York City as a Canadian.
New York City!
How is life different in New York than in Canada?
Our lives in New York City, from the outside, or maybe even from the inside, don't really look too different. When we planned to move to New York City, it was 2019. Ryan and I just got married. Ryan's a dual citizen, and we started applying for a green card. And so we thought we were going to move here and we were going to be full-time actors, auditioning every day, waking up at 4 a.m., putting our names on lists, getting seen at maybe 9 a.m. or maybe 6 p.m., depending on how long that took. And, you know, our lives were going to look very different. But ever since we sort of changed our paths, at least for the moment, we've been doing social media, and it's a lot of work indoors. We stay at home, we work at our own pace, and it's really fun, and we love working together. But I'd say the biggest part that's changed for us is we still go to theater. So we still enjoy seeing all of the Broadway shows, staying up to date with Broadway news. And by being in New York City, we get to be like first foot in the door when it comes to anything happening in the theater world. Like anytime you're hearing about Broadway shows, if there's even like a pop-up, if there's anything new that we're interested in that's a little touristy, I kind of feel like we're just tourists living in New York right now, enjoying the city for what it is and for what we've remembered it on trips that we've taken. But the day-to-day activities, a lot of it is very similar. I now work at Bar 3 West Village, so that's cool to work at the Bar 3 location at West Village. But I just worked for the last 5 years as a Bar 3 instructor in Toronto, and Toronto still has like a downtown vibe. So I think the biggest thing is arts and culture is what we're getting from New York City, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I'm obsessed.
Do you prefer living in the US or in Canada?
I get this question a lot, and I think for all of my Canadian followers out there, there's a big fear to move to the US in the sense of the slight differences that you don't realize. So things like healthcare. And I will say our first month and a half, our first 2 months here was very stressful because we could not get healthcare. We had to buy private health insurance, but we could not get it because we hadn't been living at our address for long enough, and our licenses had just changed over and they didn't identify in the system yet. And so the insurance company didn't recognize that we were actually really permanent residents here. And if you have any kind of prescriptions or any health concerns, that transition between moving can be really tough. And could we have set it up beforehand? No, we had to live here first. So there's nothing we could have done to prep more. We looked into health insurance, but that was all we could do. So I would say there was about a month and a half, maybe 2 months of sort of big question mark stuff where normally you would not, as a Canadian, have to pay for a family doctor visit, for a primary physician visit. And instead, here you have to pay for clinics, you have to pay for everything. And that's not even including prescriptions. Of course, you have to pay for prescriptions too. So healthcare is a concern if you're someone who does have a lot of medical care. If you are thinking of moving from Canada to the US, definitely something to look into. Another thing to think about as well is just the difference in culture. While it's slight, it depends on where you're moving. For us, New York City is not too different from Toronto. So honestly, when it comes to culture, it's not that different. How are you feeling about that, Ryan?
I feel kind of the same. Like you said, we're taking advantage of the arts and culture, but I feel like we were doing that in Toronto as well, like going to TIFF and different movie screenings and outdoor events, and all these same kinds of things are happening here that they were in Toronto. I suppose part of it is just the novelty of having heard about New York for so much, right? We just recently were watching Canada's Drag Race, and one of the queens said, "I'm dressed to the highest fashion like I'm walking the streets of New York."
But it was Canada's Drag Race.
And not like I'm walking the streets of Toronto. So there is an aspirational part to living here. So there's sort of like a meta level of enjoyment of like, I'm going for dinner in New York. Like it could feel normal, but at least for now, while we do feel like tourists, it feels special. And also the fact that we know people that are coming to visit on vacation.
Yes, so many of our friends and family are visiting periodically, so it gives us something to do. We get to explore the city with them, and we get to show them our favorite places and find our own favorite places, because I feel like you can come to New York City as a tourist, and you can come to New York City as a tourist who's doing the underground secret things. We love to follow that Instagram account, Secret NYC. I feel like they've always got great information of hidden gems, holes in the wall, but also what's happening and what's new, any pop-up things, any brand new restaurants that are, making the news. I find Secret NYC is really great at doing that. So finding those kind of social channels that are going to show you sides of your own city that you don't even know yet. I love that. I love that there's always something to discover. I feel like with Toronto, like you just said, TIFF and, the shows that go on at Mirvish. Yeah, new shows come, but it's all the same thing. I feel like there's just not as much originality or fun new things happening in Toronto. It's just a fraction of what goes on here. It just feels like a regional theater as opposed to a whole arts hub. So, not to say that New York is the only place in the world that does that. London, England is also a place for theater, especially if you think of the history with Shakespeare, and just their culture really respects live theater as well. But I feel like in Toronto, it's just sort of like a watered down version of New York. And while we took advantage of all of the cultural things there, I just feel like there's so much more to do here. And I love that at my fingertips. I can go take a subway and in 20 minutes, I can be almost anywhere.
Would you try living in any other major Canadian or American cities like Los Angeles or Montreal or Vancouver?
Ryan wants to move to LA. He always has. I don't know why. Tell us why, Ryan. Didn't you tell us last time? I think you did tell us.
I did, but I feel like you and I were talking about this privately, actually, and I realized another thing that I really admire about California is I feel like they have a lot of progressive laws and regulations that go in, like consumer protection things and environmental laws and regulations. It's like you'll go on to a website and down at the bottom it'll say click here if you're from California and you don't want us to sell your private information. It's like that kind of thing is like baked into the culture of like trying to do things that are good for people and good for the world.
I do love that. That sounds exciting. But also, for perspective, the population of California as a state
is bigger,
larger than Canada as a country. So when people say to me like, "Oh, why did this happen in the US first?" or "Why can't Canada have nice things?" Honestly, it's because we don't have enough of a population in Canada to make it viable for businesses, in my opinion. Businesses are going to start pilot programs more likely in California or New York or the US altogether than they are going to start a pilot program in any Canadian city, whether it's major or not. And it doesn't mean that we don't have major cities in Canada. We do, like Toronto is huge. But then there's so much space of our country that is like small or uninhabited. When you go north, there's a lot of land that is not able to be inhabited. So when you think of the country as a whole of Canada, it's less populated than the state of California. Like that's huge. That's, if you think about the weight and like importance of just the sheer number of people, it can kind of make you feel a little different about when things start in America first.
What is your favorite thing about the US?
Oh, there are a lot of things about the US right now that people don't like. That's what I'm going to say. Also, we got a question from TikTok. Was it hard to move? We can definitely address that today in this episode. But there are a lot of things right now, especially in the last like few months, that have really come to a head with human rights. And I feel like human rights are just a struggle in general. Like over the decades, you can see people's human rights. We've been fighting for so many things and we've been trying to move forward. And it feels like right now in America, we're taking steps back. And with taking steps back, it is disheartening. And it's hard to just say, oh my God, I love America so much. I love living here and I love our life, but I can see why it's a struggle in 2022 to be so excited and on board with what's going on. So I'm going to say I do love America and I love living here. I love the opportunity. I love the chance to start my own business and be entrepreneurial and really have connections to, I feel like in general, just there's more going on here. There are more thought leaders. There are more movements when it comes to business.
It feels
just more
like
progressive things are happening, more original things
happen here than in Canada.
Yes, in Canada, I feel like we are copycatting. Everything is, oh, well, they did it in the US, so we're going to do it now too. But that's not to say that Canada is perfect either. So there's lots of problems going on in the world right now. So I don't mean this to be a downer question, but I will say that we've made sacrifices to move here. We have had to change health insurance and put that at risk, and we have to pay more money for it now. But with all of the experiences that we're having here and the way that it's shaping us as people, I think that this has just been, so far, has been a really great experience, even just shaping who we are. I think it's had to make us more tough. And maybe I'll answer this question. Was it hard to move here? It was extremely hard to move here. Ryan is a dual citizen. I am on a green card through marriage, married to Ryan. Even that process was extremely difficult. And that is supposed to be the easiest process you ever have to move to the US as a Canadian. You can get visas, you can get sponsored by your business for different kinds of visas or a green card or student visas. But to be able to live here and work here, it's very difficult unless you have a tie like Ryan as a dual citizen. So the process took us 3 years basically, and lots of paperwork. We hired a lawyer. We had to fill out tons of paperwork that would take like 6 to 9 months to even pass through and move on to the next portion of the paperwork. So very frustrating, but in my opinion, it's all been worth it, because I really just feel like this opportunity and this time in our lives is us working as hard as we can to develop our own things.
So the question that I had was somebody asking about, they're a Canadian, they're a dancer, and they would like to move to New York City to pursue that. Do you have any advice for that?
So my advice for you, I was also a Canadian dancer, musical theater performer. And my advice to you is, if possible, if you are able to afford or maybe find scholarship, to apply and audition if you are looking into getting into dance or musical theater performance in any way. Do audition for programs in the US, because even though they are extremely expensive, it will give you the opportunity to live in the US during that portion of time that you're in school. And then there is a visa that you apply for that almost everybody gets. And I'm not going to say everybody's guaranteed, but it is pretty implied that you're able to get it for 1 year after you graduate. And in this 1 year, this is what I did back in 2015. I graduated and I lived in New York City, and it was the best year of my life when it comes to being an actor. That was the year that I auditioned for potentially 3 to 5 shows. I auditioned a day. It was so intense, and it was like a workshop. It was like an extra year of my master's degree to get to live in New York City and just go to open auditions. Now, times have changed and things are more virtual. It's less about the open cattle call kind of things, but they are also returning to that a little bit. So I still think New York City is the place you have to be when you're auditioning for those things, because if you audition from Canada, you have no visa, you have no opportunity to book any of those jobs. And while they still would prefer you to have a green card as opposed to just a student visa and then the OPT visa, which is the one that you get after school, it's still an opportunity to be here. So I wouldn't pass it up if you do have that chance. And if not, if you're not coming to the US for schooling, there's just different visas that you can apply for, and they're based on your resume, basically. So if you want to look into that, it's the Outstanding Talent Visa 01. And I do know people who have had it, and it's definitely possible, but that would be the other option. And a lawyer can always help you with those things as well.
Do you plan to stay in New York permanently?
Ryan, what do you say? I would say yes, unless life circumstances change, unless like a crazy wild opportunity happens, unless we say, you know what, all of these things that have been weighing down on us about politics
being in the US in general.
Yeah, if that starts to wear away of our optimism on it, then we could move. But for now, and where I foresee our future going, I would love to stay in New York City unless we get an opportunity to go somewhere else that might be just as exciting or more exciting.
What has been the hardest thing about the move?
I think recently, Ryan and I have been discussing more about how surprised we are about being homesick. So I've experienced being homesick before because I lived in the US for school and then I lived here a year. And for the whole year that I lived here, I actually didn't even see my family anything more than just Christmas. Whereas Ryan and I have been having to go back for my Invisalign appointments to Canada. So we've actually been visiting our parents a lot. And we do virtual calls all the time as much as we can. And I think that's maybe the first thing you might say, Ryan, that you didn't realize you would be so homesick.
Yeah, because I lived 4 or 5 hours away when I went to university, which felt very far. But I also could then go home for a weekend for Thanksgiving.
Anytime you wanted.
Anytime I want. And it is much more of a process. Just the length of the drive is just that much farther. Having to go across the border, which might require testing. Seems like not now, but that might change. Also the dogs, and then also you getting work covered here with Bar 3.
Right. That's the thing. Like, we are tied down to New York City at the moment through my classes at Bar 3, which is not a full-time job. I will say that right now. I'm not a full-time fitness instructor. It's very difficult to be a full-time fitness instructor, to be honest. You have to be working at multiple studios potentially to make it work, or you have to just have a very rigorous schedule at one studio. Maybe you have another position at the studio, like you're a partial manager, or you work the front desk, and that's how you can financially make it full-time. But very often you have to take on extra work like private clients or extra like 3 different studios or 4 different studios. And you also probably have a side job on top of that. So it can be possible to work full time in fitness, but for me, I'm still part time. And I think that does help us to go on trips home, that it is part time, and that we're able to do social media and content creation as our other job, because that is way more free when it comes to scheduling.
What was your favorite part about the process of moving from Canada to New York? I know that you said that it was a very difficult thing, but what was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was with how long we had to wait to move from Canada to the US. I really loved how fast things really move once they get going. So as soon as we had the approval for the green card, we had to get an apartment. Actually, we had to get the apartment before we got the approval. But once all that happened, like, everything was falling into place. We had to find an apartment. We had to get the dog's papers sorted. And then we were just picturing our lives in New York. And I feel like it all just fell into place. So that is something I love about New York City. I feel like just the energy in the city. People are ambitious. People are fast. People maybe don't even care about you because they're focused on themselves, but it means that things get done. And I love that. I love that things get done. I love that things can move quickly, and maybe anywhere else in the world, it might move slowly. If you want to get something done, it can happen like that.
What are your long-term goals?
Long-term goals. I feel like I got this question in the first episode of the podcast, and I feel like I do want to revisit it. For me personally, I always thought that we were moving here to become musical theater actors. And then our life kind of took a little change in 2020. And now I really feel like I want to be more entrepreneurial with my own business and doing what we do currently, but just keep growing it. So my long-term goals would be to continue to create content, maybe for ourselves, or maybe to work for a company and have more of sort of a corporate lifestyle and that job security and things like that, instead of just being a freelancer and gig worker. But I do like the gig lifestyle, so I'm not opposed to it. I think I'm just wanting to be entrepreneurial. I want to take on new projects and be a full-time content creator, still be involved in fitness, however that is, whether it's me working for a studio or whether it's me being on my own and being more entrepreneurial about that. And I still see us in New York City. How about you, Ryan?
I would love if we had something other than our content services to offer to people or to clients. In, like you were saying, we just set up our business.
Very exciting. We applied for an LLC.
And part of that, we were looking in, they were asking like, are you going to run events? And it's like, oh, that could be really fun, of like run an event company for social media stars? Like, what if we were the event company that someone with a huge following that wanted to run an event in New York City came to?
Yes.
Or like some other thing that we could offer. Also like a product that we could offer, like some sort of planning tool, or like I would love to someday make a physical product that something that we find useful that other people could find useful.
Yes.
I find woodworking very satisfying. So like something made out of wood. And I also find 3D printing very satisfying as well.
Ryan loves technology. So maybe something technology based.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think a big goal for me is to be able to work from home with the freedom and exciting option of in-person activities, like in-person events, like Ryan was saying. But I think a work from home position and working together. I really love working with you, Ryan.
Yeah, that was like, my answer was like, change the types of thing that we do, but don't change our setup at all.
I know, I love this setup. Let's just keep doing it, okay?
Great.
Okay.
What is the best and worst thing about moving to New York from Canada?
I think you'd be surprised moving from Canada to the US how much is really different. I think so much of our cultures parallel each other. However, there are slight differences, and depending on where you are in the US, it can drastically change sort of the cultural and atmosphere of your day-to-day life and just sort of energies. Like I said, New York City is so fast and fast-paced, and kind of like in Canada as well, West Coast, different vibe. But I think you'd just be surprised from moving from Canada to the US, all the little social things that might be slightly different.
Yeah, I was just thinking about when you've been to like order food at a restaurant.
Yes.
Sometimes there's been times where you're just kind of standing waiting, and someone that will go take the initiative gets their order in first.
Absolutely.
And you're being a polite Canadian about it.
Yes. Canadians are over polite. And on the flip side of that, Canadians might think that Americans are being rude. But maybe Americans are rude as much as Canadians are over polite. We see the extremes.
You still have to try and get stuff done. You can't just wait around forever. And it's like, where is that line of like how long I'm willing to wait?
Yeah.
And our last question here, I think, comes from someone who has also made a big move recently, because they asked, how can I boost my confidence as a foreigner in a new environment?
I love this question. So for me as a Canadian living in the US, like I just said, the differences are so subtle that you might not necessarily realize that I'm not from the US. But I find that finding little places of comfort within your new city is a great way to adjust to a new city, a new lifestyle, especially if you're from another country or from another drastically different culture. So for me, I love finding those little places, and maybe it means for me, it's bar 3. And yes, that's work for me, but I would go to bar 3 as a client, and I would go to a bar 3 and make friends there. And even if it's just saying hi to someone right before you start class, like the person beside you smiles at you, it's like the little tiny things that can help you to feel like you belong are really important. Something for me as well. I really love the coffee shop that we have in our area, and ordering the same order from the same staff member who's serving me the coffee. And I just feel like little things like that can help you to feel like this is your home, you belong here. And especially in New York City, where it's so big, it's so loud, it's so noisy, you can definitely feel the heaviness and the pressure of there being so many ambitious people. I think that is something you feel when you're on the subway, when you're walking the streets. There's people on phones, there's people yelling, there's people, just a lot of big personalities. And I feel like you can feel a little bogged down by that. And that's why finding these little safe spaces for you, finding these little safe moments and communities. I know for some people that's religion, finding a place that you can find community. For me, I love going to fitness classes. I love, like I said, going to get coffee, and just finding those little sort of safe haven places that you feel comfortable and you feel like yourself is a great way. Could be a park. It could be you walk a certain path every day and you love that path and it makes you feel confident. So I would just start small. feel like that's my biggest philosophy. Start small, just like confidence. Start small, practice, let it grow bigger. Don't be afraid to try new things. And if something is outside of your comfort zone, maybe you go outside your comfort zone 1 week and then you take 3 weeks off. And then next month you step out of your comfort zone again. And then you take 3 weeks off. And then you just keep adding it until it doesn't feel so scary anymore.
Well, that is all the questions that I have. Are there any other closing thoughts you had about our big move?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson for me about moving to New York City is don't be surprised that you're surprised. So we were surprised that we got homesick as a couple of people in their early 30s. We were surprised at how there are big differences and small differences between our cultures. And being surprised that there are some places that we really love and feel like our own private spaces or our private habits, rituals, and things like that too. I think those can kind of take you by surprise and just be open to it.
Do we know what the next episode is going to be about?
I think the next episode is going to be about becoming a bar instructor. I have a blog post about this, and I think we're going to dive right back in about my tips on how to become a fitness instructor, if that's your passion, or yoga teacher, or whatever kind of fitness that you are interested in. Don't forget to shop with my link at Lululemon if you are wanting to support me here when you shop. And we go live Tuesdays, Thursdays on my TikTok for all the drops at Lululemon. Tuesdays are new releases, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursdays are 7 a.m. We made too much. My dog's eating my shoe. Phoebe, come here. See you next time.